In a world clamoring for attention, constantly demanding explanations, and often mistaking noise for impact, there's a profound strength few ever truly discover. It's the power of silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of intention. The silence of unwavering self-respect. We're told to speak up, to clarify, to defend our position. But what if the greatest defense, the most potent clarification, is to say nothing at all? What if in our quiet detachment we unlock a wisdom that words can only obscure? Today, we're diving deep into the Stoic art of silence. We'll explore why you should never chase, never beg, and never explain. Instead, we'll discover how your silence can become your ultimate superpower. Think about it. When we feel hurt, misunderstood, or rejected, our instinct often screams, "Fix it, explain yourself, make them understand." We chase after validation, beg for closure, and over-explain our intentions, hoping to bridge a gap that was never meant to be closed by our words. But with every explanation, every plea, we subtly surrender our power. The Stoics, ancient masters of self-control, understood this profound truth. They knew that true strength isn't found in external validation, but in internal fortitude. As Epictetus reminds us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. When you chase someone's attention or beg for their understanding, you are handing over control. You are saying, "My peace depends on your response." And that, my friends, is not peace. That is a prison of your own making. Real strength? It's when someone disrespects you and you respond not with an angry retort, but with a dignified silence. Not out of pride, but because your self-worth doesn't need to shout to be heard. It silently detaches. This silence isn't emptiness. It's discipline. It's radical self-respect. It's an inner strength that declares, "I don't need to be heard by you to hear myself." And this, paradoxically, is the kind of silence that terrifies those who seek to control you. So today, let's explore 6 profound truths that reveal why silence is a Stoic superpower, and why those who master it never chase, never beg, and never explain themselves. If you're tired of overgiving, if you've been misunderstood, if you ever chased someone who walked away, this is your moment to shift. Truth 1. Silence makes them feel your absence, not just hear your words. Have you ever noticed this paradox? When you stop explaining yourself, when you cease the chase, people often begin to think. Silence doesn't push, it pulls. Think about a time you felt hurt. Your instinct was likely to talk, to defend, to justify. But the more you talk, the less they often listen. The more you chase, the further they run. But when you go truly silent, suddenly your absence speaks volumes, more loudly, in fact, than your presence ever did. As Elbert Hubbard wisely said, "He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words." The Stoics understood that silence makes people uncomfortable in ways noise never can. When you withdraw instead of react, you force others to confront something deeper, their own actions. Your silence becomes a mirror. It says, "I saw what you did. I felt how you treated me, but I value myself too much to explain it to you." This isn't ego, it's clarity. If they truly cared, they would ask. If they respected you, they would reach out. They wouldn't need a lengthy explanation of your worth. So you stay silent, and in that silence, you reclaim the power you once gave away. You stop trying to be understood by those unwilling to understand, and you allow certain wounds to heal, not through conversation, but through quiet detachment. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Your silence will trigger them, confuse them, make them ask questions. Why aren't they reacting? Did they stop caring? That's when the power shifts, because your silence speaks one truth they can't ignore. You don't owe them an explanation, not anymore. Truth 2. When you stay silent, you hear the truth louder. The world is loud, filled with distractions and external voices, but true silence helps you listen, not to others, but to yourself. In moments of heartbreak, betrayal, or confusion, most people seek external comfort, advice from friends, validation from social media, or a confrontation with the one who hurt them. They hope the right conversation will heal the wrong person. But the Stoic does something radically different. They go silent. Not because they don't feel pain, but because they know that real answers don't come from noise. They come from reflection. Marcus Aurelius taught us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. When you become truly silent, your mind calms, and when the mind calms, truth rises. You begin to hear the quiet voices of realization. They never truly respected me. I just didn't want to accept it. I'm not angry they left. I'm angry I stayed too long. I don't need closure. I need peace. These truths rarely arrive in a text message. They emerge in the quiet hours when you stop explaining and start listening. Silence isn't passive. It's focused, intentional. It's the doorway to inner wisdom most people never walk through. So when you're unsure, when your emotions are clouded, don't act. Be still. The answer isn't outside. It's inside, and you'll hear it in the silence. Truth 3. Begging for closure is a form of self-betrayal. Let's talk about something many people never admit. Begging for closure often leads to more pain, not peace. We crave that final explanation, that one honest conversation, an ending that feels complete. But here's the brutal truth. If someone truly cared, you wouldn't have to beg for closure. They would offer it with respect. And if they don't, your silence is the closure. Epictetus taught us, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. This isn't about ignoring pain. It's about reclaiming your power over your healing. When you chase closure, you give them control over your emotional well-being. The cycle is insidious. They hurt you, you demand answers, they respond with coldness, and you feel even worse. This repeats until you realize closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself when you finally go silent and walk away. It's easy to convince yourself, if I just tell them how I feel, if I just get that one last talk. But what often happens is you end up explaining yourself to someone who has already made their choice, made peace with hurting you. You waste energy hoping someone else will fix your broken expectations. That's not closure. That's self-abandonment. Stoics knew that emotions, especially ego, can cloud judgment. You want to be seen as good, to be understood, but chasing that external validation is a betrayal of your own growth. Real closure is this. You recognize that what they gave you was the most they could give you. You accept that no amount of explanation will make them more respectful, loving, or honest. You stop waiting for a conversation that will never happen. And in that acceptance, your power returns. The people who hurt you don't need to understand your worth. You do. The people who left don't need to say goodbye. You can say it without a word. The people who ghosted don't need a second chance. Your silence is their answer. So stop writing those unsent letters. Stop rehearsing the perfect message. Stop chasing closure in people who were never truly open in the first place. Go silent, and let your silence be the space where self-respect finally breathes again.
Truth 4. Silence exposes what words try to hide. When you go silent, something powerful happens. Masks fall off. Words can be beautiful, but they can also be deceptive. People say what sounds right, what they think you want to hear. They use explanations, justifications, apologies. But silence? Silence can't lie. Ralph Waldo Emerson captured this perfectly. What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't judge a person by their apologies. They judged them by their patterns. And the best way to see someone's true pattern is to stop talking and simply watch. Because silence isn't passive, it's profoundly observant. When you stop explaining yourself, you give people the space to reveal their true nature. And trust me, they will. The one who truly respects you will miss your presence and reach out with honesty. The one who only used you will vanish because they never valued you in the first place. The one who manipulated you will grow angry or confused, not because you did anything wrong, but because they lost control. Here's what most people miss. Words can create illusions. Silence reveals reality. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to test them. Just withdraw your words and see. See who checks in when you're quiet. See who disappears when you stop giving. See who gets frustrated when they can't provoke a reaction. That's the truth, and it's often brutal, but absolutely necessary. Sometimes, silence hurts more than 1,000 confrontations, because people can dismiss your words, but they can't dismiss your absence. They can argue with your opinions, but they can't argue with your stillness. When you stay quiet, you stop feeding their illusions. You stop playing their emotional games. You stop pretending that their words mean more than their actions. This kind of silence brings you clarity. You stop needing people to explain why they treated you badly, because their silence, their distance, their actions already did. You start trusting patterns over promises. You start believing energy over explanations. You begin to value what's real, not just what's spoken. That's Stoicism, not cold but clear, not distant but discerning, not emotionless but emotionally disciplined. So next time someone tries to talk their way back into your life, don't rush to respond. Observe, go silent, and let the truth speak without words. Truth 5. Not explaining yourself is the highest form of confidence. Let's be honest, when someone misunderstands you, it hurts. You want to defend yourself, to explain why you're not what they think. You want to scream, "That's not me." But the Stoic doesn't chase understanding from others. He seeks understanding within himself. Why? Because explaining yourself to people who have already made up their minds is not confidence, it's fear of being misjudged. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Don't waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors, unless with a view to some mutual benefit." Think about that. Every time you try to convince someone of your worth, your goodness, or your loyalty, you're spending your limited time and energy on someone else's judgment. That's not power, that's insecurity. The person who doesn't explain himself is not arrogant. He is at peace. He knows his intentions are clean. His actions are aligned. His value doesn't need to be translated to those who don't care to understand it. This level of detachment isn't easy. You might be called cold, labeled selfish. You might even lose people who once felt close. But here's the truth. Losing people who never truly saw you is not a loss, it's an alignment. Most people don't want to understand you. They want to control how you're perceived. And if your silence breaks their illusion, they get angry, not because you hurt them, but because you stop playing their game. When you stop explaining, you start leading with energy. You stop justifying your distance. You stop defending your peace. You simply act. And those who are meant to be in your life will understand that silence without needing subtitles. This kind of energy is rare. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes manipulators lose interest. It makes users walk away. But the ones who remain, they respect you deeply because they know you won't lower your value to fit someone's misunderstanding. That's Stoic silence. Not loud, not desperate, not theatrical, just calm, rooted, unshakable. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. You don't need to convince anyone that your boundary is valid. You don't need to speak your value into rooms where your silence already said it all. Truth 6. Your detachment in silence is what teaches them the lesson. There's something uniquely powerful about a person who chooses to walk away, not in anger, not in drama, but in quiet detachment. You don't slam the door, you don't send a final emotional message, you simply leave. And in that silence, you teach a lesson no words ever could. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This reminds us that the real suffering often begins when their mind starts replaying your silence. When you stop responding, they are left alone with their thoughts, with their guilt, with the memory of how they treated you, with the echo of your absence. Your detachment quietly says, "I no longer need to prove myself to you. I will not stay where I am not respected. I have realized that my peace is more valuable than your connection. Most people don't know how to handle this kind of energy. They're used to people who react, who beg, who fight for closure, who break down to be heard. But when you go silent, you stop playing their emotional game. You exit with dignity, and your silence forces them to confront themselves. They expect you to chase. They expect you to fight, to stay, to come back, but you don't. And that scares them more than any argument ever could. Because suddenly, they realize they no longer have access to your energy. They don't have the upper hand. They didn't think you'd actually walk away. That's the moment the lesson begins. People don't learn from words. They learn from distance. They don't change when you scream, "Respect me." They change, if ever, when your absence makes them realize what they lost. And if they don't, that's okay too. Because the lesson wasn't for them. It was for you. You learned that your peace doesn't need permission. You learned that not everyone deserves an explanation. You learned that sometimes silence isn't just strength, it's profound healing. When you detach in silence, you remove yourself from toxic patterns. You stop bleeding in front of people who aren't capable of understanding pain. You stop explaining storms to those who live indoors. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your own soul to keep it in a space where it's being neglected. That's why Stoics weren't reactive. They didn't chase justice. They didn't seek validation. They let the silence speak for them. You don't have to yell, "I'm done." You can just be done. That's real power, and that's the kind of silence that truly terrifies the people who thought they had control over you. So don't be afraid to detach. Go quiet and let them sit in the space where your voice used to be. A final shot of the individual from the beginning, now with a look of deep inner peace and calm confidence. Perhaps they close their eyes in quiet meditation or simply gaze forward with serene resolve. If you've made it this far, you already feel it. There's a shift happening inside you. A quiet realization, a truth you've always known but perhaps forgot along the way. You don't have to chase, beg, or explain yourself to be worthy. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to prove your side to be understood. You don't have to break your own peace just to keep someone else comfortable. This is the foundation of Stoicism. It's not coldness, it's about clarity. It's not detachment from love, it's about detachment from chaos. The Stoics taught us something powerful, that silence is not weakness, it's control. It's the refusal to waste energy on what's beneath you. It's the confidence to know that your presence is valuable even when it's gone. There will always be moments where your emotions want to take over, where you'll feel the urge to explain, to fight, to prove. But in those moments, remember this: your silence might not win the argument, but it will win yourself back. Because every time you choose not to react, you build inner peace. Every time you walk away quietly, you build self-worth. Every time you keep your dignity intact, you build the kind of power that can't be stolen. And if there's one thing to take from this entire video, it's this: let your silence be your final word. Not out of ego, not out of spite, but out of deep, unshakable self-respect. Thank you for watching. If this video hit your heart, like it now. Share it with someone you know is ready to grow. Comment your affirmations below. Your voice matters here. And subscribe for more Stoic truths every single week. I want you to drop this final affirmation in the comments. My silence is my last word and my most powerful one.